Hi, I'm Liz Devonshire. I'm a brand photographer and visibility specialist. Welcome back to the Photography Shift. I'm really thrilled that you've made it back for the third session, and I'm delighted to welcome Grace Fogarty from Present with Grace. Grace helps businesses make sure that their messaging and presentation is on track and online to connect with their ideal clients. And I know that you're going to find this interview super interesting. So please stick with us and I hope you enjoy it. Hello, thanks very much for joining this week's session of the Photography Shift. Today I'm chatting to someone who is known for empowering business owners to use their networking meetings to get real leads every time. The queen of networking is also a scriptwriter, actress, and stand-up comedian, as well as, of course, as you'd expect, an amazing speaker. So welcome to Grace Fogarty. Obviously, we all know how important our use of language is, but it doesn't always come easily to many people. And that's obviously where you come in, Grace. And I'd love to know a little bit more about you, the person behind the Queen of Networking, and of course about your business before we dive into the questions today.
Of course. Well, thank you so much, first of all, Liz, for having me here. It's wonderful to be able to chat with you. So to tell you a bit more about my business. I'm a networking strategist. So what that means is that I help small business owners who are going networking several times a month to turn those conversations into leads and clients. And the way that I do that is that I look partly at their messaging and the way that they share and communicate the way they do and the language that they use in their pitch and how they explain what they do in conversations. I also help people with their presence because actually the way that you show up in a meeting, how you hold yourself, your body language, the way you speak is a really important component of what gets you noticed and remembered long after networking meetings finish. And then I also work with people on their conversion strategy. So how do you actually go from having a brilliant, promising conversation at a meeting into turning that into a sales call and then a client? So those are the three kind of big areas that I work with people on.
And that is kind of like so important. I'm sure that many of us go to networking meetings and we think that we've got a warm lead and suddenly it all goes cold. So I I think it's amazing actually what you're doing. And I'm not I think it's there's not many people actually like focused on that area that I've heard
Mm.
of. So that's so important. So I mean, I've known you for a little bit. I've met you through networking. I've also know a few people who've worked with you and they're constantly sort of singing your praise and say how amazing you are. So obviously I wanted to get you on here to especially with this new set of interviews, I wanted to get people who really kind of could dig deep into what people actually need to move the dial on a little bit more once they've stepped out of their comfort zone to take the next step. So I wanted to ask you a few questions about your own personal journey.
Yeah,
And
of course. Please.
so I wanted to know at what point in your growth did you realize your visual presence needed to evolve and that your visuals weren't actually matching up to the level of your work?
Yeah, this is a really great question. I've been running my business for just over 3 years now. But when I first started, I set up a business as a sole trader called Grace Fogarty Training. And I was actually wanting to work as a presentation skills facilitator, going into companies and running workshops. But as soon as I started my business, pretty much I started networking. And it was, even though I was going to these networking meetings saying that I wanted to meet corporates and run workshops, every time I said, I also do acting, I've done comedy, I'm doing presentation skills. I always had people in the room come up to me and say, oh my God, please, can you help me with my pitch and with my presenting? That's the bit that I really struggle with. And so after kind of a year, I decided to experiment and start working with people on their business pitch and the way they present themselves. And in the end, I just completely pivoted my business because I realized there were so many people that needed that kind of expertise that I had and that I could help people in that way. And so after a few months of kind of experimenting with pitch training, public speaking training, networking training, I decided that I was going to go all in on that focus and I wanted to set up a limited company. And it was at that point that I realized all my visuals and my brand identity and everything completely needed to change because I was making quite a big pivot in my business. And actually, it was because I was going to set up a limited company. That's the thing that triggered the idea that I needed a brand. Because I knew that I wanted to call my business Present with Grace Limited because it talks about, it refers to pitching and presenting and all of that. And obviously, it's got my name in. And so I spoke to a few different people, and everyone said, well, you've got to get a brand. If you're setting up a company, you've got to get your brand sorted. And suddenly I just started to look at everything I've been doing so far, and I realized it all looked so homemade. I'd done the classic, like made my banners on Canva and all the rest of it. And I just thought, actually, I'm ready to kind of take the next step and level up in my business. I'm going to set up this company. I'm going to get a new website. And actually, I really want a new brand. And with that, I want a whole new set of photos because I need to show the world who I am now, now that I've found my feet and I know what I'm doing. So it was that moment that I thought, yeah, I'm going to invest here in the online appearance.
Yeah. And actually, you're so right, because what we're showing to the world in our brand, in our photos, in our whole presentation is so important to kind of as a message to our clients of where we're at and who our ideal clients are. And sometimes it's a case of making sure we attract the right people, because if we don't do that, we're going to start attracting the wrong people in.
Yeah,
Which
totally.
becomes is very uncomfortable for us and for them. So yeah, I can totally see how you've evolved and everything. And we all have to do that at some point,
Yeah,
as we're
it's
always
constant.
evolving and always moving.
Yeah.
Um, so how do you think your visual identity influenced the way people perceive you, as we've just sort of touched on? Um, how did it affect your authority, and did your investment in photography influence the way clients perceived you, and of course, like, paid you, which is pretty important when we're talking about business?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. So when I had my first paid photo shoot, um, something that I knew I really wanted to get across to people is I wanted to show people kind of when I'm in my element, like when I'm public, I love public speaking. I love working with an audience. I love speaking to big rooms of people. That is when I feel like my most confident. And I really wanted to show people, like, look, this is what it's like. This is the energy that I have, that I can help you to achieve as well. And so I worked with a photographer. I was hosting a big Christmas networking event for about 100 people. And so the photographer came to the event so that we could do some headshots, but also so she could take some photos of me with this big group of people and kind of just doing my thing. And I think having those photos to start off with really helped to position me as a speaker, as a keynote speaker, as someone who's able to kind of walk the talk. So that was brilliant. And at the time, I was talking a lot about helping people with their pitch specifically. And I know that using those photos, it's like, it adds to your credibility. I can go to a networking event and say, hey, I can help you learn how to get noticed or learn how to get your pitch. But when you've then got the photos that back it up, it kind of tells the full story. So it made me more credible. And also, something else I'd say is that the photos that I've used in my business are, I always choose photos where I am brightly dressed. I'm wearing like a bright yellow dress or a bright purple jumpsuit. And some of my most famous, not famous, not famous, some of my most favorite photos are the ones where I've got my arms in the air or I've got my hands on my hip. I'm doing something. And those are the ones I used on my website, and something people always comment on when they look at my website and they look at, kind of the images I use, is that they say like, oh, I love your energy. I love you. You're so bold. You've got a great presence. And they say that before they've met me. And that to me shows me that my visual identity is doing its job, because I want my photos to show me on my best possible day. And so if I'm not having a best possible day, but someone sees my photos, they're still going to get that impression of me. And I think that's definitely like the biggest shift that using that visual part of my identity has helped me
Yeah.
with.
And that's so important, because it's showing part of you, the energetic part and the energy, and people really buy into that as well. And
Yeah.
also, kind of, you touched on the sort of clothes you're wearing, and that's totally on brand for you. And so when people see kind of, even if other people wear bright clothes, they all think, oh, who else do I know who dresses like in bright clothes? That's Grace. And
Mm.
it's just keeping you in mind.
Yeah.
I think that our brands, and I know your brand really, I've been like examining it obviously very closely, and it is very, very bright and bubbly and positive, and it gives you all those beautiful vibes um, that I think people need positivity right now. And
Yeah.
I think your brand gives that and makes it feel really, really sort of sunshiny and
Mm.
lovely. So,
Thank
and so have you found that since you rebranded that, I know it's like yeah, we don't like to talk about money, but do you think you're getting paid more since you had a proper rebrand and
Yeah.
elevated? Are you
Yeah,
charging more?
definitely. My business has grown since having that brand and that visual identity 100%. And I am charging yeah, I'm actually this is a great question. I haven't really kind of thought about it to do the maths, but I suppose if I compare when I first started working with small business owners, when I stopped doing the corporate stuff, I started working one-to-one and in small groups with small business owners. That compared to what I charge now with my group program, for example, is I don't know that I'm terrible at maths, but I'm probably charging maybe 3 times the amount I was back then.
Yeah,
And it's certainly given me the confidence to be able to do that, because I feel like if you look at my business objectively, I can see that I'm positioned in a more kind of high quality service,
yeah,
and with that I have permission to charge more. And I've already got plans in my mind of how I'm going to increase the prices of my group program, of my one-to-one work. And again, like 2 years ago, I didn't have that confidence. I didn't feel like I was able to do that, because there was a mismatch between me and what I felt I could deliver for people and what I thought people perceived of me. So 100% it's given me the confidence to put the prices up, and yeah,
yeah.
and grow the business.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's amazing. And that's what good branding, good strategy, good photos can do
Yeah.
for businesses. Excellent. And you know, whenever I speak to people on these interviews, I really want to try and share something with listeners that will help them. So I always ask a question where my interviewee can give advice or talk about an action that they could take. So, when you think about your own brand shoot experience, what would you like to share with someone who might be preparing their own brand shoot? Maybe a piece of practical advice or an action that you'd recommend someone take before they enter the shoot, or actually even on the day itself.
I definitely think it's really worth spending some time thinking about how you want to be perceived, because when photos capture you in a moment in time, and you want to be able to use those photos for a year at least, if not more, in your business. And so it's really helpful to think future focused and think, okay, I am where I am right now, but in 12 months, who do I want to be? How do I want to be seen? How do I want to be known? What do I want to be known for? And when you're choosing your outfits, and the way and the poses and the way that you hold yourself, I like to think of it. This is my acting background, this is where it comes in. I like to kind of create a character for myself and think, like, let's say one of my many characters that I'm using at the moment is CEO Grace. Okay, so I'm going to think, right, how is CEO Grace dressing? What is she going to wear? And also, how is she going to hold herself? What poses is she going to hold? What's she going to be doing? What do I want to see CEO Grace doing in these photos? That means that in a year's time, I can still be using them because they're showing the growth. And even though that might mean that I'm going to wear outfits that might feel a bit like, oh God, this is a bit bold, or I might be doing poses that feel a bit like, oh, it doesn't really feel comfortable. It doesn't matter. It's about getting into character of who you want to become and how you want to be perceived. And that's what will get your photos noticed. And I would also say, actually, that advice applies whether you're having a photo shoot or you are showing up at a networking meeting, the same goes. Put yourself into the character of how you want to be perceived, and then hold yourself, dress in that way, speak in that way, because it's all about creating this image. It's not about pretending to be someone else. It's just about stepping into the shoes of your future self, because when you do that, then the rest will follow. When you put yourself like that for your photos, your business will follow. And I think it's really, really powerful to think like that.
Yeah, I actually really love that, Grace. I mean, it is powerful, and we all kind of can sit in our the level we're at now. But you're absolutely right. I mean, stepping into our future shoes is amazing advice because that's where we want to go. We have our goals. I mean, we're all writing our goals for the future, but we should kind of try and imagine ourselves there or already in order
Mm.
to kind of make that leap. So
Yes. Yeah, it's like to be that person, to be CEO Grace, I have to be CEO Grace.
yeah,
You've got to be it, you've got to act it. It's as
yeah.
simple as
No, that's brilliant. I love that advice. And it's really interesting how our two businesses walk in tandem to help others create the authority brands with the ability to be seen at the elevated level that they're really operating at. And we have to be seen to be doing that ourselves as well, in order
yeah.
to help others. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on how photography has impacted your business. It's been really, really interesting. I know everyone listening is going to be really, really interested too. Um, Obviously, anyone who wants to get in touch with Grace after this, all her details will be with the interview and also on the social media platform, Instagram or LinkedIn, where it's going to be advertised. So do get in touch with her. I can tell you it will not waste your time. It'll be amazing for your networking, which is one of the most important ways to build your relationships with future clients. So do get in touch with her. And thank you,
Yeah.
Grace.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Liz. And if anyone wants to, like, kind of learn more, I run a free masterclass once a month. So if you go to my LinkedIn page, it's always in the banner and there's a link there. So just head over there and yeah, and come along because, I'd love to meet people and yeah, share how you can get more clients from networking. It really is the best way to grow your business.
Yeah,
So thank you. Thank you for having
fantastic.
me.
So, what a fantastic interview. I thoroughly enjoyed speaking to Grace. She's got some great insights in how to present yourself when you network. And actually, it's really made me think about how every time that we go to networking and go to events, we need to think about who we want to be appearing at as. Are we going to be appearing as our old selves, or are we going to be appearing as that person we really want to be? So it's really something to think about. And I hope you've all enjoyed the interview of Grace. As I say, I think it's been brilliant. I just wanted to also let you know that I have a few spaces left in May and June for brand shoots. If anybody's interested, this is a shameless plug for me. So if you want to talk about stepping into your summer with some fresh, beautiful imagery, please do DM me. Or if you just want to chat about being a little bit more visible to your ideal client, I'd love to chat. So please do get in touch. In the meantime, come back next Wednesday at noon. I'll have a whole new interview for you. See you then. Bye.